You must be interested in the Cypher System by Monte Cook Games. I'm Jordan from the Jocular Junction, and I'll be your guide to the weird world of Cypher. Now, the Cypher System is a game engine that can power campaigns of almost any genre. Whoa, you mean I can play heroic fantasy, space horror, and superheroes all with the same system? Yes, you can. It isn't as completely straightforward. There's a little bit of finagling you have to do to get this going, but that is part of the fun. It is noteworthy for its elegance, ease of use, flexibility, and narrative focus. Playing it, I've found it to be crunchy enough to hold my attention, but not overwhelming like some other games. And as a game master, it's surprisingly easy to run. What are the specifics of this tabletop RPG? What stories can you tell? What is its future? Hi everybody, Jordan here. Now you've maybe heard of Numenera. It's a science fantasy tabletop RPG written and published by Monte Cook in 2013. This was the beginnings of the Cypher System, and at the time it was just Numenera, a joining of RPG and system and setting into a really robust world that was weird and wonderful. It was Earth, or Earth-like, but so far in the future that 8 other gigantic civilizations have risen and fallen before it, and now we play in the 9th world.
Numenera actually is the union of 2 different ideas that I've been sitting on for a really long time.
That's Monte Cook, the creative director and lead designer and co-owner of Monte Cook Games.
You know, we talk about Arthur C. Clarke's quotation a lot of, any sufficiently advanced technology is indistinguishable from magic. And I thought, well, what if we just take that to its logical conclusion and you had a setting that seems like a fantasy world with magic and whatnot, but oh no, wait, actually, it's technology.
This is why it's science fantasy. There is technology and there is magic, which is probably misunderstood technology, and the world is filled with bits of technology from the 8 past civilizations, and the word Numenera became the go-to word for technology that we don't understand, but we can still utilize. So later in 2017, Monte Cook released a 2-volume Numenera box set that cleaned up some of the language and expanded the rules, and that is the one that I have right here. It's a great product. Their products are always super well done. Later in 2017, Monte Cook released a 2-volume Numenera box set that cleaned up some of the language and expanded the rules, and that is the one that I have right here. It's great. Their products are always super well done. There are many in-house adventures that are published, as well as bestiaries, magic item supplements, and Numenera is still going strong. And it's a great game to own and play, and it was the birth of the Cypher System, which Monte Cook Games created a few other iterations like this.
But Cypher System, again, starting with Numenera, which is where the Cypher System started, is really kind of our main focus most of the time.
Now, it seems like every publication at Monte Cook Games, they were pushing what this new system could do. So eventually they realized that they could make this a standalone system that has no setting and allow players to make their own settings and rules. But heck, why don't they also just provide some base settings for those who don't want to make their own or just need a little bit of assistance?
I kind of designed it to be not so much a game, but like a toolbox so that a GM could pick it up and make their own game. And so there were sort of these core types that you could then mold into whatever you wanted them to be and add on these other pieces. And, we had these things called flavors that you could, change it.
Now, what makes the Cypher System, like all tabletop RPGs, there is a lot in this book, and it became difficult to summarize and still have it make it sound cool. So a straightforward approach, you roll a d20, high numbers are good, you crit on a 20, and you fail on a 1. The bigger summary is that your character has 3 separate stats: might, speed, and intellect, which each operate as a meta currency and also your health. You can spend a piece of your stat pool to do interesting things, like you can spend a few intellect points to cast a spell, or speed points to enact some cool maneuver. And when you take damage, it applies to your strength pool first, which is kind of acts like your health. Now, the longer pitch of the Cypher system is this. Every challenge, every monster, just about everything is a numerical level from 1 to 10. So to determine the DC of a challenge, you multiply the level of that challenge by 3. In the game, when coming up against a level 1 monster, to try and hit them, you would take the number 1, their level, times it by 3 for a total of 3. You then have to roll a d20 and get a 3 or higher in order to hit. Now, this works up until about level 7. So 7 times 3 is 21, which you don't get on a d20. Now, Cypher differs because you're not adding bonuses to your die to overcome a certain challenge number. You are actually lowering the difficulty. For example, we have a level 5 lock in our game. A player wants to pick the lock. They would need to roll a 15, 5 times 3, to succeed. The player remembers, oh, I'm trained in lock picking. Okay, that's going to ease the challenge down to a 4. Oh, and I also have magical lock picks. That makes any lock-picking task easier. Okay, let's move it from a 4 to a 3. Now, upon further inspection of this lock, the player remembers that they have picked this style of lock before, as in the past week. So the GM agrees we can lower it again to 2. So now the difficulty check for this lock is 2 times 3 or 6, just for that player only. Now they took a d20 roll through their character training items and other bonuses from a success on a 15+ to a success on a 6+. What makes Cypher different from other tabletop RPGs?
So I like to think of Cypher as sort of a transition from very hardcore trad games like Dungeons and Dragons, Pathfinder, a few other games, and things that are more on the narrative end, Fate and maybe things like that. This is like somewhere in between that spectrum. We still have a pretty firm foundation of rules, but yet we really embrace the GM's ability to help guide the story, and a lot of the mechanics are there to both help the GM and the players kind of guide the story in a more with a little bit more control and a little bit less control on the side of the rules and the dice than a traditional game.
So the Cypher system, and this is really just my opinion, is best played as a collaborative conversation. And I know a lot of tabletop RPGs are like that, but it really is emphasized here. The players know up front that the elemental monster they're fighting is level 4, so they need a 12+ to hit it. But through training and knowledge, maybe some of them are able to ease that task, ease that difficulty down from a 4 to a 3 or a 2, and that makes the monster easier to hit for the player. Where other systems try to hide the difficulty from the player, I like that players know upfront how difficult this monster or task is. You automatically can size up and know your odds of success right from the get-go, and now you have to think, how do I make those odds better for me? So the other interesting thing about Numenera and the Cypher system is that players do all of the rolling. If you attack a monster, you roll. If you defend against a monster, the player rolls again. The GM just comes up with the difficulty number, which makes it really easy to create scenarios and scenes from a game master perspective. The level of the monster is their AC, and it's also their attack against the player. And finally, the last thing I think that really makes Cypher stand out in this long explanation is that magic items are meant to be plentiful and temporary. So you can only have a few magic items on you at any time, but you're also expected to use them knowing that more will appear in the future. The magic items in Cypher system are called ciphers, and that's where we get the name of the Cypher system. But a cipher could be just about anything. It could be a healing potion. It could be an uploadable computer virus. It could be a walkie-talkie. In the last couple years, Monte Cook Games has published a lot of settings for the Cypher system. So you need to dive into the book as a game master, find out what kind of setting you want to run, what works and what doesn't work, and then provide options to your players. And Monte Cook Games has facilitated this on their website. There are all kinds of things to look at to try and narrow down what do I want my game to be like and how and which abilities do I want to incorporate in that game. Also on MonteCookGames.com, they have come a long way in building up their online assistance. So there are character builders, there are ciphers available that you can take and copy and print off and hand it out to your players. It really helped with the game that I last run, and my players were able to go online and kind of build a character without owning every single book. Now, you might have noticed that there is a second edition coming up of the Cypher System, and I was able to interview Monte Cook Games about it. I'll put the full interview up here or in the link down below, and you can check it out. But things that are changing are kind of interesting. He wants to update certain aspects of it, but it sounds like even though it is a true second edition, we're also going to be able to incorporate a lot of the settings that he's created.
The vast majority of the changes that we're making have to do with player characters. Make characters the way you want them to. And the biggest thing that we're doing here is we're making that a lot easier for people to use. You can just pick this game up and say, okay, we're going to play a fantasy game. You want to play a barbarian? Well, here's a character type called barbarian, right? No, you want to play a druid? Here's one called a druid. And oh, we're playing science fiction. You want to play a star pilot? Here's a type called star pilot. And it's just way easier to just pick this up and start a game.
Thank you for watching, everyone. I do have a Patreon if you want to support the channel, or if you want to become a YouTube member, you can see certain videos released early. You can be notified when I go live and chat with me, and we can talk about Cypher System. I ran It's Only Magic Cypher game for about 7 or 8 sessions, and it was so much fun. We set it in our hometown, and we had to stop an invasion of witches, hags, from taking over a certain part of our town and causing everyone to have crazy nightmares. I also played in a Numenera game a long time ago over on Saver Dice, and I'll try to put a link into the video as well if you're interested in watching that. Thank you guys so much for watching, and I will see you all in the next episode.